Hi. The topic of this article is Cultural Identity Essay, published on the handmadewriting.com website, the best-in-class essay writing service for college and university students. Cultural Identity Paper, Definitions, Goals and Topics. Before starting off with a cultural identity essay, it is fundamental to uncover what is particular about this type of paper. First and foremost, it will be rather logical to begin with giving a general and straightforward definition of a cultural identity essay. In essence, cultural identity essay implies outlining the role of the culture in defining your outlook, shaping your personality, points of view regarding a multitude of matters, and forming your qualities and beliefs. Given a simpler definition, a cultural identity essay requires you to write about how culture has influenced your personality and yourself in general. So in this kind of essay, you as a narrator need to give an understanding of who you are, which strengths you have, and what your solid life position is. Yet, the goal of a cultural identity essay is not strictly limited to describing who you are and merely outlining your biography. Instead, this type of essay pursues specific objectives, achieving which is a perfect indicator of how high quality your essay is. Initially, the primary goal implies outlining your cultural focus and why it makes you peculiar. For instance, if you are a French adolescent living in Canada, you may describe what is so special about it, traditions of the community, beliefs, opinions, approaches. Basically, you may talk about the principles of the society as well as its beliefs that made you become the person you are today. So far, cultural identity is a rather broad topic, so you will likely have a multitude of fascinating ideas for your paper. For instance, some of the most attention-grabbing topics for a personal cultural identity essay are memorable traditions of your community, a cultural event that has influenced your personality, influential people in your community, locations and places that tell a lot about your culture and identity, cultural identity essay structure. As you might have already guessed, composing an essay on cultural identity might turn out to be fascinating but somewhat challenging. Even though the spectrum of topics is rather broad, the question of how to create the most appropriate and appealing structure remains open. Like any other kind of an academic essay, a cultural identity essay must compose of 3 parts: introduction, body, and concluding remarks. Let's take a more detailed look at each of the components. Introduction. Starting to write an essay is most likely one of the most time-consuming and mind-challenging procedures. Therefore, you can postpone writing your introduction and approach it right after you finish body paragraphs. Nevertheless, you should think of a suitable topic as well as come up with an explicit thesis. At the beginning of the introduction section, give some hints regarding the matter you are going to discuss. You have to mention your thesis statement after you have briefly guided the reader through the topic. You can also think of indicating some vital information about yourself, which is, of course, relevant to the topic you selected. Main body. Your main body should reveal your ideas and arguments. Most likely, it will consist of 3 to 5 paragraphs that are more or less equal in size. What you have to keep in mind to compose a sound cultural identity essay is the argumentation. In particular, always remember to reveal an argument and back it up with evidence in each body paragraph. And, of course, try to stick to the topic and make sure that you answer the overall question that you stated in your topic. Besides, always keep your thesis statement in mind. Make sure that none of its components is left without your attention and argumentation. Conclusion. Finally, after you are all finished with body paragraphs and introduction, briefly summarize all the points in your final remarks section. Paraphrase what you have already revealed in the main body, and make sure you logically lead the reader to the overall argument. Indicate your cultural identity once again and draw a bottom line regarding how your culture has influenced your personality. Best tips for writing cultural identity essay. Writing a cultural identity essay about myself might be somewhat challenging at first. However, you will no longer struggle if you take a couple of plain tips into consideration. Following the tips below will give you some sound and reasonable cultural identity essay ideas as well as make the writing process much more pleasant. Start off by creating an outline. The reason why most students struggle with creating a cultural identity essay lies behind a weak structure. The best way to organize your ideas and let them flow logically is to come up with a helpful outline. Having a reference to build on is incredibly useful, and it allows your essay to look polished. Remember to write about yourself. The task of a cultural identity essay implies not focusing on your culture per se, but to talk about how it shaped your personality. So, switch your focus to describing who you are and what your attitudes and positions are. Think of the most fundamental cultural aspects. Needless to say, you first need to come up with a couple of ideas to be based upon in your paper. So, brainstorm all the possible ideas and try to decide which of them deserve the most attention. In essence, try to determine which of the aspects affected your personality the most. Edit and proofread before submitting your paper. Of course, the content and the coherence of your essay's structure play a crucial role. But the grammatical correctness matters a lot too. Even if you are a native speaker, you may still make accidental errors in the text. To avoid the situation when unintentional mistakes spoil the impression from your essay, always double-check your cultural identity essay. Write a cultural identity essay with handmade writing. Overall, writing a cultural essay is a task that challenges you not only as a researcher but also as a philosopher. If you lack the motivation to write your cultural identity essay or are insecure about whether you can manage this task, you may always rely on handmade writing. Expert writers work hard to polish students' papers and are always passionate about helping you out. Whenever you want to relieve your workload and delegate your paper to professional essay writers, handmade writing is willing to assist you even with the highest complexity level essays. End of article. You always can get essay writing help with handmadewriting.com. Bye.